If you are struggling with your direction, then I would imagine that you have a lot more control over where the ball goes than you may realise, but it may well be that you're focusing on the wrong parts of the swing. The drill I'm going to take you through today is something that I share with all my students at some point along their journey. It's especially good for new golfers and high handicaps, and it gets absolutely to the point, to the factor that makes the ball kind of go where it goes. It's intuitive and it's fun, and I think you're going to enjoy it. And as always, I'll take you through the drill in the video, and then I'll put a practice plan down below and you can take it to the range and give it a go yourself. And if you find the same thing, you find that, wow, all of a sudden you've got control over the ball flight, then please drop a comment below. So what I'm referring to then is club face. Assuming your swing has a sort of the general right shape and the path is reasonable, club face is absolutely king and has by far and away the biggest influence as to where the ball goes. And in this exercise, we're going to see if we can really build a mental connection between how you feel in your arms, how it influences the club face, and how that directly tells the ball where to go. Now, we're not going to do this just by trying to bring the club face back straight every time. That's a really long, boring approach that is definitely not time efficient. We're going to do this by using a motor learning principle called parameterization. Essentially, we're going to learn to hit the ball to the right in various degrees, and while doing so, creating mental markers as to our arms and the face connection. We're going to hit the ball to the left in various degrees, and then we're going to kind of hone in on the straight club face to hit the ball straight. And I actually did this exercise last year with a student of mine who was an officer in the army, and he said that is exactly what they do in artillery when they're trying to find their range. They go long, they go short, go long, and then they kind of find that middle point to pinpoint their range once they've set their markers. So we're going to be creating mental markers with the club face. Have a bit of fun with it, and then you'll be amazed how at the end of the video, end of your practice session, you'll be far more skilled at bringing that club face back dead straight. Okay, quick caveat. To make this work, you really got to have a decent grip. So very, very quickly, what I'm looking for is club running in your top hand from the middle joint of the index finger up to that crease just above your little finger. And then you've got to get what's called the snuff box, which is that dent in the sort of middle of your wrist. That needs to sit slightly over the right side of the handle for right-handed golfers, so the opposite side of the handle. And the trail hand comes in mostly in the fingertips, and you can see as I curl my fingers under, the hand is presented to the side of the handle as if I'm shaking hands, i.e. it's not over, it's not under. That said, the principal way that we're going to control the club face today is through how the hands and arms rotate in the swing. So a really great exercise for kind of relatively new golfers and high handicaps is the circle drill. And I'll link in the description below this drill in full. But essentially we're making circles with the club around us. And you can see as I do that, the club goes from being square, so pointing straight up, to rotating on its back. And then on the way through, it rotates over. So we recognize how the arms are rotating in the swing. So that's the circle drill. More advanced players may like to feel it more subtly through how the forearms are rotating through impact. But ultimately, we need to have that feeling in our fingertips that connects the way that we rotate our arms, dictates the club face, and ultimately where the ball goes. So, okay, I think it's time we got started and we did the drill. But I don't want to just kind of draw on shot traces here. We can all sort of draw on sort of painted lines. I want you to be able to see where the ball goes. So for that to happen, I think we're going to need to turn the lights out. It works. Who knew? So now you've got a chance of seeing where the ball goes. I am aiming straight down the line of the mat. I don't know if you can see my cane on the ground. So we're aiming at the blue flag there. That's our straight line at least. But we're going to see if we can manipulate the face. Now the key thing as we do this is that we are trying just to manipulate the face and not hit it right by swinging into out or vice versa. Can I keep the same swing path and just manipulate essentially how the arms are delivered to the ball? And of course what we're really getting at here is a mental connection with the face via the feeling of how the arms are delivering it. So our first task is, I wouldn't really go for sort of minus open and closed fives. They're really extreme. Well, it's worth having a go. I think I'll start with 3. So I'm going to go with 3 open, -3. So as I come into the ball, I've got to be like so. And you can see to do that, I have kept my arms rotated to the right, probably got the handle forwards a little bit as well. Let's see if I can make my normal swing, but deliver an open 3. So this should go high and to the right. And that was not bad. I'm going to call that an open 1.5. Yeah, so the idea isn't obviously that we nail each one of these numbers, but we're just sort of playful with it and see if we can relate club face to ball flight. Let's try that again. Open 3. And if you find you're struggling, you can go back to our circle drill. That's what a 3 would feel like. Notice the feeling of the trail arm underneath the shaft. Okay, I think I've got a better feel for it now. That is a 2.5, oh, 3. I'm going to give myself that one. Okay, so that's an open 3. Now we're going to do closed 3. So closed 3, I want the arms turning over a little bit. So to our circle drill, that would be this kind of motion. Can I make the same swing path, but a closed 3? And that is, you can see that. I think that's a closed 2.5, 3. Okay, so when you've hit those numbers a couple of times, you'll probably find that the bigger numbers are the easier ones, and then we start to bring it in. So let's go for an open 2. Just go through my drill, feel what open 2 feels like. Arms staying to the right. This should start a smidge right and then fade. That's quite a nice 2. I like that one. And and that felt quite blocky, particularly with my trail arm pressuring through the ball. I certainly didn't let it turn over in the way that I'm going to now. So now I'm going to let that trail arm turn over my left arm for a closed 2. And that is pretty much a closed 2. You can see my right arm turns over more, probably get the right shoulder through a bit differently as well. Okay, now is when it gets a little bit more skillful and a little bit more useful as well. Can I get that fine skill of manipulating the face between open 1 and closed 1? Okay, let's aim for open 1. That is a subtle skill. And sure enough, that starts pretty straight and then just drifts a little bit with the wind. That was a pretty good open 1. Closed 1. Closed 1 has that kind of motion. This would start again pretty straight, maybe a smidge left and curve a little bit. And that's a closed 1, the wind's holding it up. Okay, so we've hit the numbers. So, of course, the main, the really cool thing about that is when you see a bad shot now, you'll have a pretty good idea as to what the most important factor to fix is. And it may not be the root cause, but at least when you're out on the golf course, you can get control of your ball flight. But of course, the cool thing is if you can hit the 3s and then the 2s and even the 1s, then 0 is just somewhere in the middle. So I should have, if the theory is correct, our theory of parameterization, I should have a pretty good idea as to where 0 is. Let's see if we can hit a dead straight laser beam. Oh, I feel a bit more under pressure now. Oh, that is not bad. A 5-yard pull, that's pretty much my standard shot, reasonably square. And that is ultimately how we control ball flight and how we learn those key skills of controlling the club face. And as I say, most people when they do that drill for the first time, normally relatively high handicappers, are amazed that they've actually got that level of control under their fingertips when they think about it. Too often golf coaching is about do this with your head, that with your elbow, this with your hip, and we kind of lose that connection with the club, and that's where that exercise is absolutely brilliant. And it's also quite a fun thing to do as a bit of a warm up as well. So make that part of your regular practice, even if it's just sort of 5 minutes at the start of a session. Now, as you can probably imagine, bring that ball in. So you can probably imagine once we've got those skills, we can then really start to think about how we draw it and fade it on purpose, which is really useful for, especially when you're playing in the wind. And when you can draw it and fade it on purpose, there'll be certain days when you're slicing it, you'll be able to switch to the draw and bring it back to straight. So if you want to see that video, then I'll link that down below. But before we see you next time, keep practicing, be creative, and good luck, play well.